Canned apples are a very basic way for me to preserve my apples. I like to can them in a light syrup, and I have to start with 19 pounds of apples. I begin by using my apple core slicer peeler, but if I didn't have one, I could just use a knife to go through and core it and peel it, and then, of course, slice it. This device just makes it a lot faster and easier. Sometimes it needs a little bit of help just at the very beginning, or if there's any irregularities, which sometimes there are on mine because these are apples that I've gone and picked myself. I try to go somewhat quickly just so that I don't have as much trouble with browning. These apples are a little better because they're the Cosmic Crisp, and so they don't brown quite as quickly. If you do have an apple that browns quickly, you could do a gallon of water with 1/4 cup of lemon juice and just place them in there. Now is when I go through and I do my fine tuning of my apples. So the slicer core will a lot of times leave a little bit of the skin on the front of it and on the back. This one doesn't, but it does have a little spot here. The other thing I check is to make sure that I've gotten all the seeds out of the inside, and this one is fine. And then after slicing those rounds in half, I put them in my pan. I ended up having to transfer some of the apples out of my large pot into a second one, and then I'll add 8 cups of water between the two of them. This will keep the apples from burning and allow me to simmer them, which is my next step. I need to place them on the stove and allow them to simmer for 5 minutes. I'll then place my apples into quart-sized jars. I need to have a 1/2 inch of headspace in this, which is the space from the top of the food to the top of the jar. I try not to break up my apples too much. It happens a little bit, especially if they've gotten a little bit softer. And I can always add more, plus I have to add my sugar still. So I'm not going to go up too high at this point, just about to the shoulder. I need to add my 1/4 cup of sugar to each jar. I like doing it this way just because then I don't have to worry about running out of the syrup or not having enough syrup. This is just like syrup made in each jar. One of the downsides though is that you have to leave your apples in this syrup for at least 3 weeks before eating them, because if you go to eat them before then, a lot of the sugar kind of settles down to the bottom and it doesn't have time for osmosis to occur to fully go throughout all the fruit. So the fruit that's at the very bottom would be super sweet and the fruit that's at the top would taste like it was in just water. And so you wouldn't want that. So I still have some liquid at the bottom of this pot. I can use it if I want to. There's some benefits to that. There's already some juice in there, and so it does have some more of the apple flavor, but downside is that it's gonna be a little cloudier liquid, so I'll let you decide. And it still probably won't be enough to fill up all of these jars. So I take my hot water and I fill it up to that 1/2 inch of headspace. And this is nice because it just melts that sugar that's at the top. Now I'll take my chopstick and I'll run it down all of the sides. What I'm trying to do is get any of the trapped air bubbles out. And then I'll go back through and top off any that need just a little bit more to reach that headspace. Next, I use a clean, damp cloth to wipe off the rim of my jars. This just makes it so that if there's any food stuff on the edge, it won't interfere with the seal. Then I put on my lids and rings fingertip tight. And then I'll process these in my boiling water bath at 20 minutes if at sea level. I'm at 1,200 feet, so I'll go for 25. Now that it's come to a nice boil, I'll set my timer. Now that the timer's gone off, I'll remove the lid and turn off the heat. And then I'll allow it to cool for 5 minutes. Then I'll place them on a heat-resistant surface, spacing them about 1 to 2 inches apart. I'll let them rest for about 24 hours so that they seal properly. After that, I'll remove the rings and use hot soapy water to clean off the jars. And then I store them in a cool, dry, dark location, and I'll use them in the next 1 to 3 years.